were not involved in compiling the speakers list. So it's our colleagues in the Department for General Assembly and Conference Management, DGACM. So they are responsible for compiling this, and this is based on several factors. Among them, of course, the level of the delegate and also, or the official who will be delivering the statement, and the wish of the country itself. So I would have no information about this because we're not involved in compiling the list. Thank you. And Abdel Hamid, please.
Thank you. I also really tried to see where is Palestine placed in your speakers list, and I couldn't find it. That means you haven't heard from them, or what?
I wouldn't have information about this. Maybe the permanent observer mission can give you more information about this, but I can go back to my colleagues in DGACM and try to get you any information they would have.
Thank you.
Gloria? Gloria, do you have a question? Okay, so Toby, please.
Thanks, Reem. Sorry, just one more. What again is the deadline for in-person attendance? Thank you.
In-person attendance for the general debate, you mean?
Yes. Is there a date by which, if a head of state is coming in person, they have to notify you by?
Our colleagues in DGACM has a detailed information note online about all details, logistical details regarding this. But we assume that statements will be delivered via pre-recorded video statements. Whether a country will be coming or not, it's up to the country, of course, and it's up to the arrangements they made with different UN departments. It's not coming through, I don't have information about this, through our office. And I see maybe, yes, Abdel Hamid again.
Sorry, I asked my question, Reem.
No, sorry, Reem, that was me trying to send Abdel Hamid a note in the chat. Abdel Hamid, Palestine is on the list for Friday morning. Check the list again, Friday morning.
I will. Okay, thank you. I couldn't see it.
Any other questions? Okay.
Yes, I have a question. Which department would a member state notify that they're going to be sending someone in person, or a head of state in person, rather?
I would assume that because I don't have any information, exact information about this, but I would assume that if a world leader is coming to the premises, that security and protocol will be notified. That's why I'm saying that I'm sure permanent missions here will notify some departments in the UN. But for announcing exactly who will be present or who will be sending a video message, that will not come from our office right now, but maybe you can contact permanent missions directly to inquire about this. Any other questions, please? Okay. And I think I have a question from, from the phone. Yes. And sorry about that. A question from Deepak from the Tribune Online. And he is asking, he said, in a letter to the President of the UN General Assembly, Tijani Mohammed Bandi, on Monday, India, along with Brazil, Germany, and Japan, have called for expediting the process for reforming the UN Security Council, while saying that intergovernmental negotiations on the issue have dragged on for more than a decade without substantial progress. They also said negotiations shouldn't be held hostage procedurally and substantially by those who do not wish to bring about reform. What are the views of the president of the UNGA on this, and how does he think that the process can be expedited and results achieved. Of course, as you know, Deepak, the IGN, as we call it, it's the member state-driven process. The president of the General Assembly appointed the co-chairs among the member states to chair the informal negotiations. The president always encourages member states to ensure early reform. This is a mandate given by heads of state and government, and is therefore essential that it is carried out. He made his views very clearly in his statement on the opening of the IGN earlier this year, and I can absolutely share this statement. Okay, any other questions, please? Thank you so much. Have a very nice day, and I hand it now to Stéphane.
Thank you so much, Reem, and it's nice to see you at the podium, at the real podium, as opposed to my bunker. All right, good morning, happy Thursday. As a reminder, and to honor the 3-day weekend, we will not brief in person tomorrow. We will, however, post the highlights around noon, and if you have any specific questions, we remain available to you 25/8 as usual. Okay, early this morning, the Secretary General spoke by pre-recorded video message to the Japan Ministerial Meeting on sustainable and resilient socio-economic systems in the process of recovery from COVID-19. That was the 19 title of the meeting. In his remarks, he stressed that the decision being taken now will have consequences for decades and urged governments to incorporate climate action in their recovery plans. To recover better, he said, countries need to invest in green jobs and fossil fuel subsidies, not bail out on polluting industries, and leave no one behind. He emphasized, as he did in recent remarks to audiences in China and India, that it makes no economic sense to burn money on coal plants. He also urged G20 members to commit to carbon neutrality before 2050. Mr. Guterres also urged Japan and other donors to maintain their climate finance commitments and continue to support the most vulnerable. This morning, and those remarks were shared with you, they're online and everywhere else. And this morning, the Secretary General also hosted a meeting with young women economists to discuss the pandemic recovery and rethinking global economic models with a focus on jobs and climate action. The Secretary General said that even before the pandemic, the quality of jobs was deteriorating with COVID-19, unemployment, underemployment, and unpaid labor have reached crisis proportions. He added that we must do all we can to consider new ways of providing new skills to young workers and ensure they have the right abilities for the economy of the future. He also underscored that we must not lose the sight of the long-term threat of climate change, and that recovery strategies must take this threat into account. The Deputy Secretary General, Amina Mohammed, also addressed the roundtable and thanked the participants for their insights, adding that it is important at this moment to be willing to discuss the hard questions, including our economic models and financial architecture, and to pursue innovative solutions that perhaps were not considered feasible before the pandemic. All those remarks were shared with you as well. Also this morning, the Secretary General spoke at the extraordinary meeting of the G20 foreign ministers. That was with a live video link. He told them that COVID-19 respects no borders and that demands that we strengthen cooperation across our own. He said that the concerns are growing that some of the current movement's restrictions could outlast immediate crisis. Furthermore, he warned the adoption of ad hoc measures could create a patchwork of unworkable travel requirements, creating significant obstacles to global economic recovery. The Secretary General urged the G20 to agree on common objective criteria in relation to the removal of travel restrictions based on scientific evidence. He also called on the G20 countries to increase investments on systems and practices that support safe travel, to boost coordination and preventive measures, to ensure full respect for international human rights, and refugee law, and to agree that future vaccines will be considered a global public good to be available and affordable everywhere for everyone. He added that we still have a long way to go in our capacity to fight the pandemic together, and that we still lack effective international solidarity to respond to the economic and social impacts and the underlying fragilities exposed by the pandemic. Turning to Cameroon, the Secretary General strongly condemns the attack on civilians in villages hosting internally displaced persons in the far north region of Cameroon that took place on Tuesday this week. The suicide bomb attack led to the killing of at least 7 civilians and wounding another 14. This horrifying attack comes just as a month after 18 people died and 15 were injured by armed groups' attacks against the site for internally displaced people in the same area on the 2nd of August. Those responsible for these atrocities must be held accountable. International human rights law, international humanitarian law must be fully respected, and all civilians in Cameroon must be protected. The special envoy for Syria, our friend Geir Pedersen, is in Moscow today, where he met with Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov and Defense Minister Sergei Shoigu. The special envoy expressed his appreciation for the Russian Federation's support of the UN facilitation and implementation of Security Council Resolution 2254. That's including the work of the Syrian-led and owned Constitutional Committee, which convened in Geneva last week. Mr. Pedersen added that the suffering of the Syrian people is acute and nearly a decade of conflict, and stressed the importance of sustaining calm and building confidence. Today, the Security Council held a virtual meeting on the latest, on the latest report by the UN Assistance Mission in Afghanistan on its work, and that was a report by the Secretary General. During the meeting, the Council members heard a briefing from Deborah Lyons, the Special Representative in Kabul from the UN. We have yet to receive her remarks for some reason, but as soon as we do, we will share them with all of you. Turning to Yemen, our humanitarian colleagues report that in late July and August, for the third time in 2020, torrential rains and flooding hit governorates across Yemen, damaging infrastructure, destroying homes and shelters, causing death and injury, ruining crops, and killing livestock. This makes an already catastrophic humanitarian situation even worse. That includes the growing risk of famine and the devastating impact of COVID-19. Estimates indicated that more than 62,000 families were affected across the country. The UN and our humanitarian partners provided emergency food supplies, hygiene kits, and other essential items to more than 7,600 families affected by the floods across the country, while nearly 8,000 families have been verified for emergency assistance. Across Yemen, 24 million people need humanitarian aid, and that includes 14 million people in acute need. By the end of August, the humanitarian response plan for Yemen was 24% funded, the lowest figure ever seen in Yemen so late this year, in the year. So far, we've received only $811.5 million of the $3.38 billion that we need. We urge donors to pay all outstanding pledges immediately, and we urge those who have yet to pledge or pay to do so and increase support. And on Lebanon, our colleagues at the Office for the Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs tell us that response activities month after the explosion in Beirut are keeping pace with evolving needs. Following the immediate distribution of more than 7,300 waterproofing kits, the shelter response is moving into cash for shelter, as well as on medium-term repairs and longer-term rehabilitation projects. A range of medical services, including 2,800 consultations and at least 1,100 wound care sessions, were provided to almost 8,000 patients. 3 emergency medical teams initially deployed for the explosions are now being paired with 6 government hospitals to increase capacity due to COVID-19 management, as well as infection prevention and control. Some 12,500 metric tons of wheat are being offloaded in the Beirut port in response to the loss of 15,000 metric tons of stock stored in the silos near the explosion. The wheat will be distributed to millers across Lebanon to support food security far beyond the immediately affected area. To date, the UN coordinated response to the explosion is seeking $344.5 million to address immediate life-saving needs for 3 months, and that response is less than 17% funded. And I wanted to flag letters sent to both the departing president of the Economic Community for Central African States, otherwise known as ECCAS, and the new president of the ECCAS Commission. The Secretary General congratulated the organization for ambitious institutional reforms initiated. These reforms have led to the creation of the new commission. The Secretary General said the establishment of a new commission will provide ECCAS with a mandate and adequate tools to respond more effectively to the challenges facing the region. He reiterated the UN's continued support for ECCAS in its effort to consolidate regional integration, build peace, security, as well as economic and social development throughout Central Africa. And a quick update for you on what our peacekeeping colleagues are doing to fight the virus. In Lebanon, peacekeepers from the UN mission there provided medical supplies to villages of Al-Kulkalia and Zibkin in the country's southwest. The supplies included surgical materials, infrared thermometers, and surgical masks. The UN mission also finished renovating a government hospital in Jintbail, which I'm mispronouncing, also in the southwestern Lebanon. The repairs were made at the hospital's hematology department at the request of local authorities. This will help ensure better treatment of patients suffering from serious blood diseases such as leukemia, lymphoma, and myelomas. And in South Sudan, the UN mission there and our partners recently refurbished a COVID-19 critical care unit in Yambio in Western Equatoria. The renovated center will be fully equipped have a fully equipped isolation facility. The mission contributed generators, beds, mattresses, bed linens, and water tank to this facility. And an update on what we are doing to fight the pandemic in Kyrgyzstan. Our team, led by the resident coordinator, Ozonia Ojielo, and is working with authorities to address the impacts of the pandemic, including on the most vulnerable. The UN team has delivered personal protective equipment, including gloves, gowns, and respirators, to 20 medical facilities in the capital and other hard-hit provinces. These facilities include hospitals for infectious diseases and centers for maternal and child health. The supplies were purchased with money from the UN's Recover Better Fund. Health workers are still among the most vulnerable, being infected at a higher rate than others. Women are especially impacted as they comprise more than 80% of the healthcare force in Kyrgyzstan. And a new report by our good friends in Geneva, UNHCR, predicts that unless immediate and bold action is taken by the international community, millions of young refugees living in some of the world's most vulnerable communities will have fewer opportunities to begin to or continue their education. The report, entitled Coming Together for Refugee Education, states that the current context, many refugee children may not have an opportunity to resume their studies. UNHCR says that even before the pandemic, a refugee child was twice as likely to be out of school than a non-refugee child. Filippo Grande, who heads UNHCR, said he was especially concerned by the impact on refugee girls. The full report is with you and on the interweb. And the Food and Agricultural Organization of the United Nations today said that the global food prices rose for the third consecutive months in August. This was influenced by generally firmer demand and a weaker US dollar. The FAO Food Price Index averaged 96.1 points in August, up 2.0% from the previous month, reaching its highest level since February 2020. And I was asked yesterday about by you, Abdelhamid, I believe, about an incident depicting a video from 2 days ago, which appears to show Israeli soldiers violently restraining an elderly man, Al-Hajj Kari, during a demonstration in Tulkarm in the occupied West Bank. The UN Special Coordinator for the Middle East Peace Process, Nikolai Mladenov, said that such incident risks heightening tensions and that they must be avoided. He also said security forces should show restraint in responding to grievances. And I'm also delighted to announce that Paraguay and Zambia have both paid their regular budget dues in full. This takes the number of fully paid up member states to 114, and we thank them both. And I think that's it for me. Let me get my glasses so I can see what's going on. They're here. Okay. Oh, and I should add on the note to Nikolai Mladenov that he also said that grievances should be heard, must be heard and expressed peacefully. Okay, let's see, where are we going? Let's go to the chat. Okay. Toby, you have a question.
Hi, Steph. Thanks very much. Same question, actually, that I had for Reem a second ago. She referenced a DGC document on deadline by which a member state must let the UN know that a leader is coming in person. I haven't checked that document, but I just wondered if you knew offhand when those arrangements need to be formalized from your end. Thank you.
There's a very useful information note that has been distributed to member states, which we will share with you right after the briefing. It has tons of details, so I will share that. We'll send that out by email as soon as I'm done. Okay, Ali, and then Abdel Hamid.
Thank you, Stéphane. One question about Libya. We know that Stephanie Williams' tenure will finish this month. We would like to know whether her term is going to be extended, or the Secretary General is going to appoint somebody for this position. This is on Libya. And also, what is your reaction to the panel of expert report about Wagner and the to Libya? Thanks.
Look, I've seen the press reports on what is, I believe, a report that was leaked, so I haven't seen the full report. And I think the answer to the question about what we think about violations of the embargo, I would refer you to what Ms. Williams told the Security Council yesterday, which really could not have been clearer. As to the leadership, I don't have anything to share with you, but what I can tell you is that there will not be a leadership vacuum at the head of that mission. Abdel Hamid, yeah, go ahead.
A quick one on Lebanon. I know that the explosion inflicted a lot of damage within the UN offices everywhere in Beirut. Do you have an estimate? What will the cost be?
No, it's a good question. I know there was a Bangladeshi Navy ship that was damaged, but we'll see what we can get in terms of the broader UN system in Beirut.
Thanks.
Abdel Hamid, and then Mr. Ivansky. Abdel Hamid? All right. Ben, why don't you go ahead while Abdel Hamid connects?
Thank you. Just wanting to get the Secretary General's reaction to the double death sentence for the Iranian wrestling champion Navid Afkari, who was participating in 2018 protests against the regime.
Look, our position is always been clear. We firmly stand against the death penalty, and people should not be punished for their political views or their beliefs.
Has the SG reached out to the Iranian government on this?
I'm not aware of any contacts at the SG's level. Alejandro.
Hi, Steph. Thank you. I have a question on Venezuela. Mm-hmm. Does the SG have an answer on the letter that was sent to his office asking for a mission of observation for their electoral process in December?
No, we do not have an answer. We do have a letter. We've received the letter. We're obviously taking a look at it, but I do not have an answer to share with you at this point.
And just a quick follow-up, Steph. In principle, could you remind us which are the main conditions that could lead the SG to decide whether or not he will send an observation mission?
Look, there are a number of possible ways, and I say this without any link to the letter, right, which will be studied. But you know, it can be mandated, or it could be done at the request of a government. So there are different options. But I don't want to get ahead of the answer to the letter.
Thank you.
Okay. Did I get everybody? Abdelhamid, do you want to try to connect again? Okay, let me see if I can go to the all-screen function.
One more question, Ali. Ali is speaking.
Yes, Ali.
Yes, on the, the designated prime minister in Lebanon is just starting his deliberation to try to form a government. Is there anything from the SG regarding this specific issue?
No, I think it's up to the Lebanese, obviously, to choose their leaders. We hope the government will be formed quickly, and I would refer you to what our special coordinator on the ground has said, Jan Kubish. And is that encouraging the new government to go through with the much-needed reforms that the people of Lebanon have been asking for.
Thank you.
Stefano and then Gloria.
Thank you very much, Stéphane. This is about the case of Mario Cocchi in Colombia. A recent article came out on the daily El Espectador in Colombia. Through this article, we find out that Mario Cocchi, well, he really knew that he was in danger. And apparently, the reason was because he denounced it in the summer 2019, a bombing of a village where children had died. And that situation had then brought inside the Colombian government a discussion where the defense minister had to resign. After that, that's what the article from the Colombia newspaper suggests, that inside the UN mission there in Colombia, there was a discussion where somebody didn't agree with him denouncing that, and was practically preventing the functioning of the work of the UN mission in Colombia. Now, these are things that we know, we find out from the work of journalists in Colombia. I would like to know what the UN and here the headquarters know about this. The fact that Cocchi knew he was in danger, and
Stefano, I think what we know is that there was a tragedy. A young man, Mario Cocchi, is dead. Right? We are cooperating with the Italian authorities, with the Colombian authorities. We're responding to all the requests. I think it's inappropriate for us. To comment on allegations or to speculate about what happened. There are a number of investigations that need to work their way through. Journalists have a job. I respect that. But from us, we're not going to start to speculate on what may or may not have happened to this young man or why.
Okay, just a quick follow-up. In the article, it suggested that it said that the mouse in the computer of Cocchi that was removed by in his apartment by UN officer had blood on it. Now, do you know anything about this?
Mario, as I said, there are investigations going on. There are live investigations, meaning they're ongoing. We're cooperating with them. We have made our staff available to the investigators as they've been requesting. it's a request here. I'm just not going to get into a game of speculation here. Gloria.
Possible. Hello.
Oh. Gloria. Okay, go ahead. Please start again. Go ahead.
Steph, would it be possible for your VIP correspondents to arrange special interviews with the permission of the dignitaries on the UN terrace outdoors or in front of the visitors' entrance where it's safe outdoors? This would make it a lot easier for the old pros who know some of the diplomats who would be willing to be interviewed.
Well, I think first of all, we have to figure out who are the VIP correspondents and who are the old pros, because often the VIPs and the old pros are one and the same. Moving around will be very it's a question. I think the space will be very. Is beyond the control, and limited. And I think the number of the states will be very limited.
Step be outdoors
This is probably a question for the United States themselves, but they announced that they will be redirecting assessments due to the World Health Organization to other UN bodies.
Sure.
This is probably a question for the United States.
Thank you. I believe someone accept it personally.
Probably a question for the United States themselves, or due to the World Health Organization. By UN bodies, have they made it clear to you which assessments they?
Because, as you know, one thing the UN has a lot. I don't know which bodies they're. We will not see you tomorrow, Secretary General. As a reminder, on today there is a joint press briefing by the Secretary General of the WMO going to today, and then watching you climbing on that day, and we'll resume end of day and wonderful end of day, and we shall see you Tuesday.